This is Tim Carmody, and you're watching the Jam interview.
What's your story?
My story, I think, is a continual process here in Canton. I come from a large family. We grew up in Farmtown, which is not a real place, but no one's been to Huntington, Ohio. So we grew up there. We did a lot of artistic things, but art didn't really become a passion of mine until about 7 years ago. I started doing it full time after a year of doing event production, and before that, about a decade of studying theater and film. So I moved from Canton, Ohio, to LA, to Chicago, to Philadelphia, and then back to Canton again in 2011. And I've been making art full time and kind of snowballing everything until here we are at the Hub. I own my own building. I rent out space to other artists, and I try to just keep the art alive, keep the art growing and flourishing in Canton. That's my story.
Awesome. When you were moving around, were you like staying in the art scene,
I was
or were you doing different,
I was
different
doing
projects?
theater in Chicago and film in LA, event production in Philadelphia. So wherever I moved, I kind of switched gears a little bit.
Okay. And how were your experiences there? Like just moving around.
I loved being in Chicago. Traveling back and forth between Chicago and Philly for a couple of years was kind of rough. I wish I had kind of dedicated more time to Chicago. Love that town. They're very accepting of like new performers, new artists, and Philadelphia on the East Coast, not so much. And then coming back here to Canton, it's a completely different ballgame. People love seeing stuff that they haven't seen before, and I could bring them a ton of stuff they hadn't seen before. So that was kind of really neat to do.
How long were you doing theater for?
I did theater all the way through high school, all the way through college, and then several years after college, probably like 4 years after college.
Awesome.
So that was like a good 12 years.
So like, what is it like? I guess transferring from different mediums of art.
Theater is very personal and it's stressful. People kind of take it personally. If they don't like your art in theater, they don't like you as a person. That's how it feels. And I felt like I couldn't continue that sort of, I don't know, just labor of putting myself out there, my whole self out there every time. And with visual art, I could kind of sit back. I could make the art in my studio, put it in a gallery, sell it to someone, and I didn't have to put all of myself out there every time.
Okay.
It was good.
So it was more exhausting than what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
okay.
And I don't think I'm going to do visual art forever. I would still love to get back into film.
Okay.
I've kept up with writing, and I dabble with some documentary stuff. But I think film is always going to be a passion and a love of mine.
Okay. Awesome. Do you find that, or do you think that you'll kind of mix all of the experiences that you had into film next?
Kind of. I mean, I think I still have life experiences, even though I'm an artist, and I don't always consider myself, an artist personality. I feel like I have a different sort of vibe, and I've always considered myself more of like a mathematician or an innovator of art than someone that can just really dive into an art medium.
Oh, okay. So kind of less, I don't know, let's say encyclopedic in terms of like the culture of art or maybe the history of it. And you're more of, I guess, actually diving into the technicality of actually doing the work. Is that what you mean?
I like organizing things and bringing stuff together. I'll take different styles, and I'll try to work on one, and I'll work on the other separately, and then I'll merge them together. And I feel like that's an innovation that's a strength of mine. It's something I bring to the table. Um, as far as like diving into different mediums go, like I know what I like and what my strengths are. I'm never going to
Right.
be an oil painter.
Right.
I can't do that. Other people do that really well.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have my strengths and I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stick with those.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help other people kind of collaborate together and maybe do some collaborations with other people that have strengths that I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's just all about knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess what kind of experiences, since you moved around, it seems like you moved around a lot. What kind of experiences do you think that you brought back with you now?
Yeah.
Back into Canton.
I mean, obviously, the whole culture, the city, the transportation, everything's different in every town, but the people are very different. The West Coast people, the film industry is stressful,
Yeah.
and it's a completely different environment than what you'll find in Chicago, and completely different than Philadelphia. And every town has its own way of either helping you out or challenging you. And the people kind of gravitate towards different areas. And if you're from the Midwest and you want to be in a big city, you're going to migrate to Chicago because that's like the Midwest Mecca. And so you're going to find a lot of people like, if you grew up in the Midwest, you're going to find a lot of people like yourself in there. And then LA is very much centered on the film. Like, if you're not in the industry, you are affected by it on a daily basis, and you have friends that work in the industry. It's just very, I don't know, cutthroat in a way, but more like, what can you do? Every time you meet somebody, they're asking, what can you do for me?
Okay.
As opposed to here in Ohio, where it's like, you meet someone and they're just like, hey, what's cool about you?
Right. Let's hang
get
out.
to know you. Yeah, let's
let's
hang
go
out.
get a beer.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you make me feel?
Right. Yeah. I've most definitely experienced that as well.
Yeah.
It's not. It's kind of close to that feeling that you're talking about with LA and Chicago, in terms of being in the art scene. But yeah, I kind of there's a difference. I can tell the difference when about the art scene here, in terms of comparing it from Akron to Chicago. What kind of how are you? Because you were talking about just being able to collaborate with different people. What kind of tips would you give to people that are either new or kind of like, I guess, a little bit seasoned into the art scene? What kind of tips would you give for them in terms of collaborating with other people?
Go to shows. If there's an opening, go to it.
Mm-hmm.
If there is an open studio, go to it. Show up. Show up at events and show up at openings. There's an opening. I mean, you could probably find one every night of the week anywhere. And show up, talk to people. It's the same kind of networking system that they have in other cities with other art forms. You show up, you put in your time, like just talking to people, and people are going to be more receptive to your artwork and hosting your stuff. More encouraging, and then the more encouraging kind of transforms into better work. And that's the best advice. I know some people think that the art scene should be more cutthroat and critical.
Yeah.
And especially in the Midwest, they want to
Yeah.
compare it to Miami, compare it to New York.
Yeah.
But I really do think that encouragement will go a long way, and pulling out the positives in people's work is going to go a long way to helping them become a better artist. Because here in Canton, Ohio, people are going to give up if they don't have encouragement. They're going to wither and die because there is not a huge community of artists here. And so having that encouragement will keep them going, and the more you go and the more art you make, the better you're going to get. And buckling down and just sticking with a style and a medium and developing your own sense of, what's cool.
Right.
is huge in any art form, but especially in visual art.
Okay. Yeah, it's really good advice. What what do you think would help, I guess, build the community, either within the art community within Canton or within Akron or any other surrounding, like in the particularly the scene that you're in, I guess,
Yeah,
or the area that you're in. What do you think could help um, build up the community?
we need more murals. We got to
Okay.
get more murals. Like
Okay.
I just finished one downtown here, and that's one of three that I want to do this summer, and we need more. Like Wynwood in Miami is blowing up because of the murals down there, and it's insane. And obviously, we can't do 500 of them in the next 5 years. That's we can't afford that. But if we stick with that and we keep bringing these murals down and livening up these walls
Hmm.
and adding in new voices and new styles, it's going to really bring in a lot of people that want to just be around that.
Right.
And sometimes an artist just needs people around to like appreciate their work. It's the whole tree falls in the forest, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
if you make something and no one sees it, did it happen?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So people need eyes on their stuff, and if we're not getting the people downtown, we're not getting the people in these Rust Belt cities, um, it's gonna wither. And so I think you gotta cultivate that outdoor public art scene a lot better.
How many other, I guess, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but how many other mural artists are there within the area,
Well, some artists don't classify themselves just as mural artists,
or
but
even
they do large scale murals. I would say there's a handful of people that are doing it on a regular enough basis that I would call them mural artists, like maybe a half dozen to a dozen. Um, I can name another dozen that have worked on a mural before and could put together like a good mural project. And then in the region, like Columbus and Cleveland, Pittsburgh included, there's a lot more. There's probably like a good 100 decent mural artists between the two cities and then in between there.
do you find yourself reaching out to them to, I guess, do collaborate on projects?
Yeah, I mean, I don't talk to them all the time about collaborating on stuff. It's really hard to mesh styles together unless you work well with that person. But
Or even like saying, I have this project, could you help, can you help out?
yeah, I've
Okay.
done that, and people have asked me to kind of help them facilitate their styles and stuff. I think sometimes it just works better if you take a small section of wall or like a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, and you just give that to an artist and say, just take it and do your thing, and then they can, have some assistance if they want. But to try to like cram two artists with very different styles together on a wall is kind of hard. But I do follow them, and I love their work. Again, like I said, stuff I can't do, I have a lot of respect for,
Right.
and so following them and seeing what they can do always inspires me to work harder at what I do.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I know I've seen a lot of, or I've heard, at least from Isabel, just like people coming across and seeing you doing your murals
Yeah.
on the street. What do you think of that?
I think it's a spectacle that they aren't used to.
Yeah.
I think it's a performance art in itself a little bit. I mean, I don't consider myself very spectacle worthy when I'm painting.
Okay.
But some people like can really paint up fast, and it really is fun to watch. And they can really knock out murals at a good clip. I think if we turn that into if we start doing these public art pieces, people will just feel like the place is alive. And sometimes that's all you need. Like watching a fire is not really a spectacle, but people like being around it because it feels alive, and a fountain feels more alive than
Right.
just a puddle.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think if we make the downtown area here start to feel more alive, people are going to want to open up more coffee shops, ice cream parlors, bars, and restaurants, and then it just snowballs from there. People will be downtown feeling like they're a part of something that's alive.
Speaking of, I guess, being downtown and opening businesses, I know yesterday we were talking about you had your first studio. What you say your first studio down here was
Yeah.
downtown, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess how did you first, I guess, get the idea to get your own studio?
Well, I had been making reverse glass paintings for several years, just part time, on and off. And once someone paid me like $100, laid down $100 for a commission, and I sold that piece. I was like, I can do this, and I knew in the back of my mind I could do it full time if I needed to. And then I came back to Canton to take care of my grandmother, and I just decided right then I'm going to dedicate this time here in Canton to full time just making art. And it's paid off. It's been really rewarding, and I've learned a lot. Like I said, I don't think it's the end of my journey, but it's
Right.
what I'm doing right now.
Okay. What's the process like of having your own studio?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stressful in the sense that I have more bills to pay for, more square footage to clean up and manage. But to just be able to walk into my space whenever I want and kind of control what I'm doing here and what other people are coming and going is fantastic. And that freedom is worth more than what I'm paying for it, for sure.
Okay. Awesome. And then I guess to kind of close it off, what kind of advice would you give to other artists?
Keep at it. Band together.
Yeah.
Because I started this place because I felt like I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed other people around to kind of band with me. And it's worked out, and I love the people here. They're like family now, and band together. Even if you're not collaborating on pieces, get together and stick together.
Awesome.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for watching. Keep jamming.